Hey guys, Coach Gaglione here from GaglioneStrength.com. I got a very special guest today, a strong friend, Meg Squads. You guys may know her, but for those of you who don't know Meg, can you introduce yourself to people watching?
Sure. My name's Meg, and I right now currently live in Manhattan, so I live in New York. You would think that John and I would train together all the time, but we actually live pretty far away from each other. And I'm a power lifter. I just competed at USAPL Nationals, and also I have a YouTube channel and a couple of different social media platforms where I talk about strength training. I talk about women's health and women's issues in regards to strength training, and also I interview other athletes. So I've had some super strong friends on. I've had Kevin Oak, I've had Jen Thompson on, Kim Walford. Recently went to super training and had Mark Bell and a lot of the guys on his team on. So I'm trying to hit everyone. I haven't run out of lifters yet, so there's still a few that I need to catch. But yeah, that's my goal, is to keep interviewing people who are super strong and get some tips that I can share with my strong friends and the people that I create content for.
Very cool. So real quick, when we first met, was at a seminar with Katie Ann and Rory, and it's kind of funny because I just, to be honest, I had no clue like who you were, but which is like cool. And then I was like, we started talking, kind of hit it off, and then I was like, kind of looked you up, and I was like, oh, I'm like, this girl actually was like, got a little bit of a following, which was pretty cool. But you were like super approachable and super nice. I couldn't very like humble, which I really like attracted me to you right away. And also I really like enjoy like your message and like what you're doing. But I also wanted to talk to you, tell the viewers a little bit about your past, because I know recently, as we got a little closer, you didn't have like the best, maybe like most happy-go-lucky childhood, had some tough times, dealt with some adversity, and you've been able to kind of overcome that, and like you're doing some really great things now. So can you tell the people watching a little bit about your past and kind of like how you overcame that and kind of got to the point where you're at today?
Thanks. Yeah. If you've ever listened to the Powercast, you'll know that those guys they'll ask you some lifting questions, but also the conversation goes in a pretty organic way. And of course, they asked kind of similar questions. And I think that was one of the first times where I really talked about what my life was like before lifting. And yeah, I grew up in single parent home for the most part. And before then, actually, my brother's dad, so my stepfather at the time, was abusive to my mom. There was a lot of drugs going on in the household. And I mean, in the podcast I mentioned, like, those were my first memories as a kid, So I kind of grew up thinking, that was kind of how everyone lived. So it wasn't until I grew up that I realized, I did experience kind of a traumatic childhood. But yeah, I kind of, my mom eventually got us out of that situation. And I mean, towards the time when I was like 6th grade and so on, things started evening out a little bit. But I think that childhood base was also something that laid out my future to where I found myself in similar situations, and like abusive relationships are just very stream of toxic relationships. It wasn't until I started to really value myself for being something other than a partner to someone else. And I really started to value myself for what I could do, not so much how, my role in like as a girlfriend or my role as like maybe potentially being a mother. It wasn't until I realized that I'm worth more than just that role. And that was, of course, like finding my strength and finding my journey, like my fitness journey, and how I could turn that into something that's bigger than me even. So yeah, I mean, I think anything I learned from opening up about that story is a lot of people, even people that I didn't expect, opened up to me and also said they experienced similar things, so they were thankful that I talked about it. And I mean, that kind of like comes full circle as well, because I share my strength and I share things that I learn in the gym, because a lot of women don't have the opportunity to train with other women. So even then, like it's almost like no matter what I share, I'm always learning that I'm not alone and I'm not the first person who's experienced this. So it's kind of comforting to know that there's a ton of people who are going through the same shitty situations as you.
Awesome, love it. And I think a lot of times like people who are real successful, they've kind of dealt with adversity and kind of like learned how to overcome it. Um, was there ever kind of like an event during your childhood or during your past where you're like, I got to break the cycle, I got to like stop this, and I got to like maybe get out of that situation, or kind of change your ways and kind of start to work towards something more positive and put yourself in a better kind of environment?
Yeah, like I said, I kind of grew up thinking that that was the way life was, where no matter what kind of relationship you were in, it was kind of always this like constantly fighting. You drive each other crazy, but you still love each other kind of thing. And I gotta say, it was just a matter of me maturing and also me learning more about myself and what I wanted from life until that started breaking. Unfortunately, it's not like some eureka moment for me ever. And I think for most people, it's not. It's just slowly you start to experience more things. I think in college, one of my boyfriends had his parents were still together and had like what I would view a very healthy relationship. And I was 20 when I met him. So it wasn't until I was 20 years old that I actually experienced like a functional relationship. So it was just a lot of me working through stuff. And I don't think I ever had like a moment where I snapped. I did get in a fight when I was like super violent, obviously, just from growing up thinking that was the answer to my problems and that was how you dealt with things. Yeah. I got in a fight when I was like 22, 23, and I was living in Columbus, Ohio at the time, and I got jumped pretty bad. And I initiated the entire thing, I was talking smack like a crazy person, because I was a crazy person. And I think after that, I kind of realized that I needed to start making some more serious changes. And for me, that meant just leaving. And like 2 weeks later, I moved from Ohio to like the DMV area. So like DC area with some family that were living out there. And that was when I started to like, okay, I had my college and crazy years. And that was a big move where I was an adult and I needed to start taking better care of myself. So that's like the only real like big shift that I made. But it was a long time coming for sure.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you opening up. I know it's like not always the easiest to kind of relive some of that stuff, and
I think it's definitely like sometimes certain moments make me just like embarrassed and ashamed.
Like, how did that even like happen? Like, yeah.
Yeah, right. Like I still have this scar on my leg from when I got jumped, and sometimes people, like when I had a normal job, a 9-to-5 job, people would ask me what the scar was from, and I was like,
yeah.
It's like, I have to lie to this woman's face.
Right. It's like, it's like, yeah.
Yeah, right. I was running. So yeah, I think, I mean, of course I'm going to say like those made me into the woman I am today, because it's very true. But also I think the biggest thing is like those kind of embarrassing stories and like being a little bit shameful of my past make me more appreciative of where I am today, and also like constantly open to learning and changing. I think every day I wake up and think like, wow, I was so dumb like 1 week ago, which is a good thing, because I'm always learning and I'm always open to like some sort of like upward change.
Yeah. And I'll just want to kind of like, tell you a little bit about myself too. It's not exactly the same kind of deal, but one of the reasons that I'm a coach now is because when I was an athlete, I trained very hard. I didn't really train the right way. I tore my hamstring playing football at practice, tore my intercostal muscles wrestling, and I never achieved my goals as like an athlete. So I never wanted anyone to kind of go through the same mistakes that I made, and that's why I kind of vowed to be a coach, and that's why that's why we're having this conversation right now, and I have my gym and everything. And so I think what you're doing with your channel and stuff is really, really cool, because you're kind of empowering people to kind of be themselves and just kind of be strong, like no matter what, which I love. So if someone was kind of like in a situation like that, I think a lot of times people are maybe afraid to kind of like get out of their comfort zone. It sounds weird, but they're comfortable kind of being in that. like toxic environment.
Yeah.
What kind of advice could you give to somebody that maybe is like in a similar situation, maybe they're in an abusive relationship, maybe they're just not like in a place where, um, it just things are not going good for them. Like, what would you kind of tell them?
I think if you're in a physically abusive relationship and things, I think it's very, very difficult and very rare for things to turn from a physically abusive relationship to not
Right.
being one. So unfortunately, like, I wish there was some kind of couples counseling that like people could go to, but most of the time the answer is to just get away from that situation.
Yeah.
For my mom, I know that it took her like actually getting tied up. Like my stepdad at the time tied her up where she was like actually afraid that she was going to die. And I know that for her was the tipping point where she knew she needed to make a change. With that, also, it wasn't until she like worked to find herself in a somewhat financially empowered situation. So I would recommend if you find yourself being financially or even emotionally dependent on someone at any reason for any reason, whether they be abusive or not, it's important to have your own independence because you never know what kind of situation you could be in. Obviously, like some people make the family choice to quit their job to raise a family, and that's a more mature situation where, sorry, New York City, the sirens are everywhere.
Baby, it's getting crazy out there.
It's like every 2 minutes. So yeah, my suggestion would be to always work on yourself and find yourself independent emotionally and mentally and financially, especially, so that you're never trapped in a situation where I think a lot of people end up getting trapped in that situation. As far as like financially, that's an easy way. Like you get a job, right? And you find yourself like somewhat financially empowered. Mentally and emotionally, I think that's a little bit trickier. Yeah. I know myself, I was emotionally invested in relationships to where I didn't like the person, but I loved them. And so I continued to feed this cycle of always like feeding my emotional and mental needs without being like practical needs where I was miserable with them. Or like it just wasn't working out for whatever reasons. So I think having your independence is super important to make sure you don't get into a situation like that or to get out. For me, a lot of times it's like it's hard to come up with a plan to be more mentally healthy, I think. So for a lot of people, I think they do find some kind of solace in becoming more physically healthy or something like strength training where you can quantify your progress so concretely and so clearly. Not to say that the answer to all your relationship problems is a strength program, but maybe a linear progression will help. I don't know. But I think for me especially, it wasn't until I started really growing in strength to where I started to feel more confident and less worried about all the negative things in my life.
Yeah, I think this is a perfect segue because I know with myself, I've been the last 8 weeks, I've been focusing a little bit more on my health too. And I think when you're healthier, when you're stronger, and when you're kind of like in that fitness, whether it's powerlifting or something else, stronger body, you got a stronger mind, and I think you're gonna have more confidence, just like you said, more independence to kind of be yourself and do what you want to do. So, and that I want to kind of move into how you kind of actually got into powerlifting. I know it's kind of like a long, little windy road. There's kind of some twists and turns, and it wasn't like you didn't just start kind of lifting barbells and kind of competing right away. Can you tell us about how you got into fitness and then how you ultimately ended up as a competitive powerlifter in the USAPL?
Sure. It started one time my mom and I wanted to do something together, so we ran a half marathon together. And after that, I thought that was really fun to have a goal with someone else. And like, even though she was in Ohio and I was in DC, but we were working together. Cool. So that was fun. And then the following, I think I did that in the fall. And then for New Year's, I had a New Year's resolution to start CrossFit. So CrossFit was a nice introduction to get a barbell in my hands, which I'm thankful for that. After CrossFit, I like just dabbled in a ton of other things. Obviously, I was squatting and deadlifting in regular CrossFit classes. We didn't quite have the programming had some sort of consistency, but it was always like an 8-week block. And then if you miss the squat day, you miss your squatting for 2 weeks or whatever. But so I never like ran a strength program within CrossFit. But then I tried a bikini show. Of course, I rebounded from the bikini show after dieting for so long, gained some weight, and that's when I realized that with the extra weight gain, my strength numbers were going up, so that was appealing to me. And at the time, that was the only thing like that I had done that was really keeping me going and keeping me coming back to the gym.
Cool. So, was there ever like a kind of defining moment where you're like, you did CrossFit, you did some running, you did bikini. This is kind of like where I want to be, and I want to kind of stick with powerlifting and now kind of really focus on that and kind of take it to the next level.
I think with everything, I'm always trying to show up. Even with the bikini show, every day in CrossFit class, I was always trying to show up and at least have a good day and get better at it over time. So when I started powerlifting, I had a friend who we like looked at how competitive my numbers at the time would be, and he was like, like at least regionally you would do okay at a meet. Like maybe you should try one. So we signed up for a meet, and then by that time I had been training consistently for like 6 or 7 months. And I don't know, by that time I was committed. I was like, oh yeah, this is what I do now. So I think it was pretty easy and like natural transition to that. And then, after one meet, I just got like more and more excited for the next one. After my first meet, I decided I still had a lot of the weight gain from the bikini show. So from rebounding from that. So I slowly dieted down to like the weight class where I am now, which I think I was more comfortable being, and I felt like I was a little bit more healthy at 63 kilos is where I am now, and I sit a bit above that class. So yeah, I went through some changes, which made it more exciting, and like I kept setting goals for myself. And now it's just like, I just want to do a little bit better than I did last week, So, and that progress, since I've been lifting for a little bit now, that progress has slowed down. It's not as fast as my beginner gains once were. So now it's just like making small jumps, which, for some people, I think unless you love it, you're not going to stick around for too much longer, just to put, 2.5 kilos on your squat a year.
So for people, how many meets have you done so far?
I think Nationals was my 6th meet overall.
Cool. And then 2 years powerlifting competitively? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, so I think I'll do American Open again. I'll do it this year in Orlando.
Cool. I think one of my friends is making her comeback meet. I don't know. Do you know Kristen Dunsamore or no?
Oh, I do. I do.
Yeah, she's kind of keeping it quiet, but she let me know that she's coming.
Okay,
so.
well, I'm psyched I'll see her there.
So, yeah.
Do you know, is she competing 63?
Yeah, she's 63 also. So.
Okay, cool. I'm not going to cut down, so I won't even worry about her.
Okay. All right, that's cool. But yeah, she's cool. You should definitely say hello. I think, I don't know if you ever talked with her at length, but she's super nice.
I have.
But
yeah,
cool.
She's cool.
Fellow New Yorker also. But anyway, so one thing I also want to talk about, you said about small gains, and again, perfect segue because I was going to ask you about this anyway. One thing I also like really admire about you, I've been competing for over 10 years, so I like get the whole like small gains thing, and like those small victories add up over time. Mm-hmm. And you have a very like mature like approach. Like you're like, I'm just going to try and like PR by like like I said, 2.5 kilos, and that is really rare to see, and like with especially a lot of newer lifters that are like even especially 6 months to a year in, they're like they're looking for like 20, 30, 40-pound, 50-pound PRs. They're trying to like do all this crazy stuff. They start comparing themselves to other people. They get down on themselves. The biggest thing I hate to hear is like I only PR'd by.
Yeah.
It drives me nuts.
We talked about this.
Drives me nuts. So what kind of like how do you have a very like positive outlook and everything, but like what's like your frame of mind like about like making progress in those small gains? Because I think everything from like lifting to your business, I think you've done a good job of just like kind of just putting a little.
Well, I think one thing that I do well, and of course I have my moments where we all wish we were doing better. If we could all take it, we would be the strongest person in the world.
Of course.
Like, of course I would.
Yeah.
But I want to be lifting for a long time.
Yeah.
And if I continue to set unrealistic expectations, I'm not going to be happy lifting. And that's detrimental to my goal of wanting to lift for 10 years. So I always keep the long game in mind. I want to stay healthy. I want to do as much work as I can recover from day to day. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if I put 2.5 kilos on each lift, that is like a 16-pound PR or whatever that kilo conversion is, which is that's a big PR. And if you stay the same weight, like that's a big Wilks jump. And if you compete every 2 years, if you do 6 competitions, like those are amazing numbers that's amazing progress. I just wrote about this today because I recently hit a 400-pound deadlift.
I saw.
And in training, right?
Hey, it's great. That's
But people are like, oh, why didn't you put 4 plates on? And I'm like, what do you mean?
It's always it's like, well, yeah. And I think it takes someone very disciplined. So I'll give you an example. So I had a guy, Mark Greenstein, who he's playing daddy now. He's no longer lifting right now, but he was as high as 5th all time at 198. But he did do a meet at 220 as well, and he totaled 1900 at 220. And we took a 695 deadlift because that's what gave him 1900. Yeah. And it's like to have that, it takes like a lot of discipline to like, and like I know like you attempted your third attempt squat was like 297, and it's like it's not about the one lift, it's about the total and the overall progress. And I think people kind of lose sight of like the bigger picture, and it's like if 400's a PR, then like 405 you could do next time. You know what I mean? You could always try it again, and you know what I mean. So I mean, I know like I think your best was like 385 you did at the meet. So I mean that's great. Deadlift bar or not, training or not. I mean that's awesome. So you should be proud of that.
It's important to know though that I went to super training. I competed on Saturday.
Yes.
I went to super training on Tuesday, and I pulled 390, which is a 4-pound PR. And then the same day, I pulled 395 just to try, right? And then, like 3 days later, I pulled 400.
That's a workout.
So, so like I hit 390, then 395, then 400, and I'm a fan of doing that. I think one thing that I always want to do is I want to take my step from A to B. I don't need to go to X because one day I'll be at X, and then I don't know. Like I'd rather be at X over time and continue to gain strength. And like now that I know I hit 386, I hit 390, I hit 395, and then I hit 400. Like I know that I'm stronger than 400 too. It wasn't like some magical thing happened where I hit 400, where I was perfectly tapered and perfectly peaked and everything was perfect. It was like, no, I'm just strong enough to do that. And I think by like taking those small jumps, gives me a little bit more confidence in my lifts. And I was writing out something today and I'm like, I'm going to hit, before I hit 405 just to fuck with people, I'm going to hit 401.
402.
I'm going to hit 402. Well, it's like 402.34 is the kilo conversion.
Yeah, nice.
And I was like, and then I'm going to just put 405 in kilo microplates and never hit like 405 with actual plates just to screw with people.
That's great. I love it. That's amazing.
But yeah, I think people should just always appreciate their own personal strength journey as far as like comparing yourself to other people. Like I know, not that I know, but right now I'm very aware that I'm not stronger than Jen Thompson. I am, though, very aware that I'm stronger than Meg Squats 2 years ago.
That's great. That's great. Yeah.
So I think if you're stronger than what you were before, at whatever point in your life, then that's an improvement, and that's what you should be like looking forward. Of course, I look at Jen Thompson and I'm inspired by her.
Of course.
I think I hope one day I'll be looking at her like on the platform, and then we'll battle. I don't know.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Who knows? If everything goes to plan and I'm lifting for the next 10 years, then like that's where I'll be.
Sure.
But that's not going to happen right now. So I just need to respect like me and my own numbers and respect my own strength. I respect her and her strength, of course, and I admire it and I'm inspired by it and it keeps me going. But I'm not going to let the fact that someone else is stronger than me take away from all the work that I've put in. Because it has been a lot and it is hard. So I think it's, you always got to keep things into perspective so that you're not taking the fun out of lifting. At the end of the day, like, no one's getting paid to be a power lifter. We're all doing it for fun and because it like feeds some sort of enjoyment or satisfaction. Don't take the fun out of it by I don't know, forcing yourself to hit 4 plates when you're not ready, or making yourself feel bad that you didn't hit a 700-pound deadlift in your last meet. Like, 695 is a great lift.
Still great. Yeah, I know. It's not too bad, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Just to kind of recap what you said, there's an old saying, like, journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't really skip any steps. You can't just teleport there. If you're climbing Mount Everest, you don't look at the top. Just look right in front of you. Just take it one step at a time. And I think that's really, really great advice. And I want to kind of jump into now talking about your business. So I really love, like, you just recently doing this full time now. So congratulations with that. I love it. I love what you're doing. I love the message. So can you tell us a little about, like, when did you kind of decide I want to make this a career versus just like a hobby? And then also your philosophy and kind of like your mission as far as what you want to do with like the company.
Right. I think for a while I was not so much embracing the fact that I could make it a full-time, I could make Meg Squats and the Strong Friends brand a full-time gig. I think I had my own career and that was going well. It wasn't until that started holding me back from doing what I wanted, to where I couldn't go at the drop of a dime. I couldn't like go interview a lifter whenever I wanted, and whenever like, bigger opportunities with the channel started presenting themselves, I was realizing that my 9-to-5 job was holding me back.
Yeah.
So that's when I started, getting more creative and thinking about like, okay, how can I make it so that I can continue to make videos and do what I love and continue to spread the message of strength with people and continue to like share my strength and share other people's strength with the world. And how can I also, obviously with that I need to make a living, and I need to make sure I have enough money to eat and live. And then how can I dig deeper with some people? So right now I have like almost 90,000 people following me on YouTube. Obviously I can't talk to each person, each strong friend as much as I would love to. So I think giving some of those people who really want and need the guidance in their own strength journey, maybe by offering them some sort of personalized and customized coaching, maybe I can start turning that into a business. And that not only gives me the opportunity to make some money, it gives me the opportunity to really dig deep with individuals. Yeah. And it's been amazing, like some of the conversations that I've had. I think I'm definitely most rewarded by like the mental aspect of it and talking about like respecting your own strength journey. Those conversations are my favorite to have. And, kind of get in the head of a lifter and also, give them the confidence that they need to be a better athlete, or just to be a stronger human. Some of the people that I work with have no interest in competing. So yeah, I started understanding like what I can offer and that people did value my time. So we just very slowly started opening up different revenue streams. So it wasn't until all my tiny revenue streams from YouTube and selling some merchandise and offering some coaching packages, and actually, so I said YouTube, and doing some paid promotions or sponsorships. It wasn't until all those multiple like tiny things led like equated or like were more than what I was making at my job.
Cool.
So it wasn't until I was making enough money to support myself to where I was like, okay, I'm going to quit my job. And I think that's important. Smart. And it wasn't just one thing that replaced it. It was like 10 different side hustles that replaced one job. And of course, it's nice because all of those things support the same goal. And when I'm working, I am working for like one person and one brand, which is the Make Squats and Strong Friends brand. But it wasn't until like all these multiple things over like 2 years of working really hard where I wasn't getting paid any money, paid off to replace my full-time job so that I could focus on that full-time.
Very cool. And one thing I just wanted to kind of add too, I think you might have spoken this on Mark's podcast, but I know you said you kind of grew up kind of poor and like maybe almost resenting kind of people making money and things like that. But I know, and I've kind of a similar, I didn't have a lot of money growing up as well and things like that. No one's a business owner in my family. But when if you're able to kind of generate more revenue and, like I said, have more followers and subscribers and stuff, you're going to end up having a bigger impact and helping more people. I think a lot of people kind of don't realize that. They kind of think like they're kind of taking money from people, but you're solving problems and you're educating them and you're kind of changing lives. So I think that it's great. And the platform that you have is amazing. So great job with that. I'm looking forward to see like what you do in the future for sure. So so do you have any advice for someone maybe that they want to be in maybe the fitness field or strength field for like and make it a career? Like what would you kind of tell them? Or if they just maybe have a passion they want to kind of go for, they're like afraid to take the next step and actually kind of start with whether a brand or a website or a company, whatever it may be.
Right. I think the biggest thing is to make sure that you enjoy what you're doing and the message that you're spreading. I started out with no intention to make money. It was really just to share what I was doing. And then it started turning into like, oh, people are learning from me. So let me give them more content where they can learn more new cool shit. If I would have gone into it making money right away or like with the intention of making money, I don't think I would be as successful. At the end of the day, my goal is to make powerlifting more mainstream and to get a barbell in every woman's hands at one point in her life. So, that's the kind of thing that keeps me going, right? And that keeps me up at night. It's not the money that, if I really wanted money, like my career was doing fine.
Yeah, you can just do that. It's stable, it's safe, and you kind of just do that.
And I would be rich, right? Like I would be rich. But it's important to, understand your mission and like really carve out your mission because I think that is essential to you and your brand. And that's what's going to set you apart. I think being an individual and being completely myself across all platforms and injecting that into like my message has really helped me out because I think it's a little bit different. And I think a lot of the things that I'm talking about, not too many people are talking about. So find something, find the gap, right? And I'd suggest, someone to just find where there's a hole and how can they fill it. And just figuring out all those different pieces and how that connects to you and your brand and your mission for how you want the world to change. That's going to be what's going to keep you driving and keep you hungry too.
Cool. And I also want to, I'm not sure if you're aware of this or not too, but I know there's some like girls even at my gym that are like, they found powerlifting through you. And so like people like you are also, we're all helping each other. I think that's like kind of, sometimes people, I don't know, I don't want to say they get competitive or whatever, or they're like, oh, well, this is, we're all spreading awareness and getting more people involved in the sport. And like I said, some of the stuff that you're doing is directly kind of helping my business out, and I just think that's really cool, and I just wanted to kind of share that with you. So I thought that was like where
Good.
it's so I think that's like it's great because I think in the past when I started powerlifting, I don't remember even like many female spectators at a meet, let alone what I mean. And now go to USA Pill Nationals or even like a local meet, and there's like 40, 50 women at like a local meet. I mean, it's incredible, and it's very like empowering to see. And so like I said, I wanted to kind of it's great to get like a woman's kind of perspective on that. So.
No, that's exciting. Like I said, I can't coach all 90,000 people watching, so I need you. I need lifters in good hands. Yeah. So I'm happy that they're coming to you, and that's the goal, right? Like I said, I really do want to see the world change and see beauty standards change, and the way we look at women change, and the way we appreciate our bodies change. So it's all. Like, luckily, the powerlifting community is super supportive.
Yes.
And I find it to be that all the other women that I know, or men too, that I know that are prominent on social media, I consider them close friends because we collaborate on ideas and we collaborate on videos, and I get ideas from them and vice versa. So I think it's a good community to continue to foster that growth. And really, the growth of powerlifting isn't going to happen unless people are collaborating and, on this mission to really make some noise. So that's exciting. I'm glad that some people are over there. It's good.
Yeah, it's great. It's very cool. So, Meg, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Always love chatting with you. It's always a pleasure. Where can people find out more about you? Do you have any things coming up? Maybe like how can they get, you got some t-shirts, you got a website, you got your Instagram. Where can they find you?
Yeah, so I just did a release. So we have some new t-shirts up on the site, and they say strong, strong friends with the most important muscle, a bicep flex.
Wow.
So you can check those out.
I don't know if those guns are legal in NYC. You got to watch out.
I don't think so. I better be careful. Okay. So yeah, you can check those out on strongstrongfriends.com. I also have megsquats.com is connected to that website as well, so you can check out some more things about me. And on social media everywhere, I'm just Meg Squats. So you can check me out on YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, pretty much everything that exists. So yeah, next big thing that I have coming up is if I don't compete, I'll definitely be at the American Open in Orlando. So that's in December. And then I'm going to the LA Fit Expo, which will be fun. I know a lot of powerlifters are going out there to compete. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
All right, guys. Well, you definitely show Meg some love. If for some reason you're not following her, I'm sure there's probably a couple of my followers that aren't. So make sure you give her a follow, check out her site, get a shirt. Like I said, always a pleasure. You guys can check out the links below. If this video helped you, please share it. I know this was one of our I'm going to say it's our best one yet that I've done so far. So
yeah, I always say whenever there's someone new on my channel, I'm like, this is the strongest person in the world
ever, best ever. So, well, again, I can't thank you enough. Again, please subscribe and give Meg a follow. So, thanks, guys.